Ambassador Tahoe Park stood nervously at the United Nations podium, adjusting his perfectly straight tie for the fifth time. The room buzzed with anticipation. This was humanity's first official contact with an alien civilization. The delegation from the Stellar Confederation had arrived 3 days ago in their sleek silver ships, and today would mark the formal beginning of diplomatic relations. What Tahoe didn't realize was that his small, unconscious gestures were having an extraordinary effect on the alien diplomats. Every time he shifted his weight or straightened his already perfect paperwork, the aliens would try to stifle what sounded like chirping noises of delight. High Counselor Nix, the lead alien diplomat, was particularly struggling. The tall, elegant creature with iridescent scales had a reputation throughout the galaxy for unwavering composure. Yet here she sat, covering her face slits with all four hands, trying desperately not to make cooing sounds as the human ambassador cleared his throat. "Distinguished delegates," Tahoe began, his voice steady despite his inner nervousness. "Today marks a historic moment for both our civilizations." He paused to take a sip of water, and several alien diplomats couldn't contain themselves, letting out high-pitched trills of joy. In the observation gallery, junior diplomat Harry Kim watched the scene unfold with growing confusion. She leaned over to her colleague, Lisa Chen, and whispered, "Is it just me, or are they acting really strange? They make those sounds every time Ambassador Park moves." Lisa shrugged, equally puzzled. Maybe it's some kind of cultural greeting. Though they didn't do this during the preliminary meetings. Down on the main floor, Tahoe soldiered on, unaware of the effect he was having. The proposed data exchange protocols will allow for seamless communication between our worlds. He unconsciously pushed his glasses up his nose, causing two alien diplomats to clutch each other in apparent delight. High Counselor Nix was now visibly trembling, her scales shifting through various shades of pink, a sign of extreme emotional distress in her species. Her assistant kept offering her calming beverages, which she waved away with one of her hands while keeping the others firmly pressed against her face slits. Furthermore, Tahoe continued, shuffling his papers, "We propose a gradual integration of our technological knowledge bases." He was interrupted by what could only be described as a squeal from the alien section. This time, he stopped and looked directly at them, his eyebrows furrowed in concern. "Is everything all right?" he asked politely. "Should we take a brief recess?" This simple display of consideration proved too much for High Counselor Nix. She shot up from her seat, all her scales now a brilliant pink, and declared in a shaky voice, "This session must be temporarily adjourned." The humans. She struggled to find the right words. "The humans' behavioral patterns are causing unexpected physiological responses in our delegation." The human side of the room erupted in confused murmurs. In the gallery, Harry pulled out her tablet and began taking rapid notes. Something very unusual was happening here. And as a junior diplomat, she knew it was her job to document everything. The alien delegation practically fled the room, leaving behind bewildered human diplomats and a very confused Tahoe Park. As they rushed past the observation gallery, Harry could hear them chattering in their native language, their universal translators catching phrases like unbearably endearing and dangerously cute. Secretary General Martinez approached the podium where Tahoe still stood, looking lost. "Ambassador Park, please don't worry. I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation for this unusual reaction." But before anyone could begin to make sense of what had happened, a junior alien aide rushed back into the chamber, looking flustered. "High Counselor Nix requests that we be provided with all available recordings of human diplomatic proceedings, particularly those featuring Ambassador Park adjusting his clothing or drinking water." The room fell into stunned silence. Tahoe looked down at his water glass, then at his tie, then back at the aide. "I'm sorry, but what?" In the gallery, Harry couldn't help but laugh. "I think," she whispered to Lisa, "we just discovered that aliens find humans adorable." The aide was now making desperate grabbing motions toward Tahoe's water glass. "Please, Could you? Could you take another sip? For diplomatic purposes. That evening, as news of the bizarre first contact spread through diplomatic channels, Tahoe sat in his office, rewatching the recording of the session. He noticed for the first time how the alien delegates had been practically vibrating with suppressed emotion every time he moved. Well, he said to no one in particular, this certainly wasn't covered in diplomatic training. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of humanity's most unexpected diplomatic crisis, their apparently irresistible cuteness to alien species. And somewhere in the Stellar Confederation's ship, High Counselor Nix was watching the recording of him saying those words, cooing uncontrollably at his confused expression. High Counselor Nix paced around the grand circular chamber of the Galactic Council, her scales shifting through various shades of distress. She paused to slam all 4 of her appendages onto the ancient marble table, making the other council members jump in their seats. "This is unprecedented," she declared, her voice trembling with emotion. "The human footage has infected every corner of the galaxy. Look at these statistics." The holographic display in the center of the chamber sprang to life, showing charts and graphs that all pointed toward one alarming trend. Across thousands of worlds, alien workers were spending countless hours watching videos of humans doing completely ordinary things. Here, Nix pointed with 2 of her hands, is the productivity chart from the Centauri Mining Corporation. The line on the graph plummeted dramatically. Their entire workforce spent 6 hours yesterday watching a clip of Dr. Julie yawning during a physics lecture. It has become the most watched piece of media in galactic history. Sub-Chancellor Vex, a tall, crystalline being, chimed in with a voice like breaking glass. "They must be stopped. Their adorableness is destroying productivity across 17 sectors." The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs as more data poured in. Security footage showed Arctuvian factory workers huddled around screens, cooing at videos of humans stretching after long meetings. In the Orion shipyards, entire crews had abandoned their posts to watch compilations of humans getting excited about their pets. "Look at this." Administrative Director Zix projected a new image. A human named Minjasong fell asleep during an Earth business meeting. The footage leaked to our networks, and now the Galactic Stock Exchange has practically ground to a halt. Our traders can't stop watching him drool on his documents. Nix pulled up another report with shaking hands. It gets worse. 3 major civilizations have already adapted their architecture to include what humans call coffee shops, just because they saw humans looking cute while drinking bitter bean water in these establishments. The council members watched in horror as the next set of statistics appeared. Productivity was down 60% across all sectors. The galactic education system reported that students were skipping classes to watch humans doing simple mathematics on their primitive boards. Even the fearsome draconian warriors had been spotted trying to imitate human finger hearts. "We have to act now," declared Senior Counselor Rith, their bioluminescent patterns flashing in distress. "Just this morning, I caught my entire security detail watching a loop of a human ambassador tripping over his own feet. They called it precious and heartwarming. These are elite guards trained to show no emotion." A junior aide rushed into the chamber, looking flustered. "Emergency report from the Andromeda sector. Someone leaked footage of humans sleeping with their mouths open. 3 major industrial complexes have shut down because the workers are too busy watching and making happy noises." High Counselor Nix sank into her chair, all 4 hands covering her face slits in despair. "We must issue an immediate galaxy-wide directive. The humans must be ordered to cease all adorable behaviors at once." "But how do we enforce it?" asked Sub-Chancellor Vex. "They don't even know they're being adorable. That just makes them even more adorable." The council chamber fell silent as this terrible truth sank in. On the main display, a new video started playing. A human diplomat named Hyunjin Cho had sneezed during a meeting and apologized while blushing. Several council members had to look away to maintain their composure. "We need immediate action," Nix declared, forcing herself to focus. "First, we ban all human media from official channels. Second, we implement a galaxy-wide blocking of what humans call social media. And third, she paused, gathering courage, we send them an official demand to stop being so utterly, devastatingly cute. The council voted unanimously in favor of these measures, though 3 members had to abstain because they were too busy watching a video of a human getting excited about seeing a rainbow. As the session ended, High Counselor Nyx stayed behind, staring at the now empty holographic display. She pulled out her personal device, looked around to make sure no one was watching, and quietly played her favorite video. Ambassador Tahoe Park trying to use chopsticks for the first time at an official dinner. For research purposes only, she mumbled to herself, her scales turning a deep shade of pink as she watched him drop his food and laugh embarrassedly. Purely professional research. Little did the council know, their attempt to control the spread of human cuteness would only make things worse. Much, much worse. The gleaming spires of Centauri Prime stretched into the purple alien sky as the human diplomatic shuttle made its final approach. Inside, Ambassador Minho Kang reviewed his notes one last time, determined to address the bizarre demands from the Galactic Council with all the seriousness they didn't deserve. "This is ridiculous," he muttered to his assistant Do-Yeon Choi, who was organizing their presentation materials. "How exactly do they expect us to stop being adorable when we don't even know what they find adorable about us?" The shuttle landed smoothly in the Council's main diplomatic bay. As the human delegation stepped out, they were met with a crowd of alien media representatives, all trying desperately to maintain their professional composure. Several of them made strange chirping sounds when Minho straightened his tie. The walk to the council chamber was an exercise in confusion. Alien staff members kept stopping in their tracks, staring at the humans with what appeared to be barely contained delight. One crystalline being actually started vibrating when Do-Yeon smiled politely at them. Inside the Grand Council chamber, the situation only got worse. As soon as Minho approached the speaking platform, the assembled alien representatives began making those strange cooing sounds they'd been warned about. "Distinguished members of the Galactic Council," Minho began firmly, "I come before you today to address your recent demands regarding human behavior." He paused to adjust his glasses, not realizing this simple gesture would have dramatic consequences. 3 council members immediately fainted, their bodies changing various colors as they slumped in their seats. Medical teams rushed in, only to become distracted themselves when Minho apologetically stepped aside to let them pass. With all due respect, he tried again, gripping the podium tightly. "These demands are both impossible and unreasonable." He glanced down at his notes, furrowing his brow in concentration. This caused a wave of what could only be described as squealing to sweep through the chamber. High Counselor Nyx, trying to maintain order, stood up. "Ambassador Kang, please stop making that expression with your face. It's too," she struggled for words, "too precious." "What expression?" Minho asked, genuinely confused, which only made things worse. Several more council members had to be escorted out, overcome with what they later described as acute adorability exposure. Then disaster struck. Do-Yeon, standing quietly behind the ambassador, felt a sneeze coming on. He tried to hold it back, knowing what had happened during previous incidents, but it was too late. "Achoo!" he sneezed, immediately covering his mouth and saying a quiet "excuse me." The reaction was immediate and catastrophic. An entire section of the chamber had to be evacuated as aliens of various species struggled to contain their emotional responses. Some were making high-pitched, keening sounds, others were changing colors rapidly, and a few appeared to be trying to capture the moment on their recording devices while pretending they weren't. "Please," Minho tried once more, "we need to have a serious discussion about these demands." He ran his hand through his hair in frustration, accidentally triggering another wave of cooing sounds. From the gallery, Junior Diplomat Harry Kim watched the chaos unfold with a mixture of amusement and concern. She leaned over to her colleague and whispered, "Should we tell him that running his hand through his hair like that is what started this whole crisis in the first place. The session completely broke down when Do-Yun, trying to help, offered a tissue to a nearby alien representative who appeared to be leaking some sort of emotional fluid. The simple act of human kindness caused a chain reaction of what the aliens called cuteness overload throughout the chamber. Inside the Resolute, Captain Hayes stood tall, her eyes focused on the blinking lights of her console. The ship was still cloaked, hidden from the enemy's view, but the tension was rising. The crew knew they couldn't rely on surprise forever. They needed a new plan, something that would throw the aliens off even more. "We can't keep running forever," Sergeant Bonner, one of the veteran soldiers aboard, spoke up. His face was grim. "We need to make them believe we're gone, but we also need to keep hitting them where it hurts." Captain Hayes nodded. "Guerrilla tactics. We keep striking, and we keep them guessing. We don't fight them head-on. We make them fight ghosts." It was a dangerous plan, but there was no other choice. The Resolute wasn't powerful enough to take on the entire alien fleet in open combat, but with stealth, surprise, and speed, they could turn the tide. It wasn't about overwhelming the enemy with strength. It was about outsmarting them. "Stealth mode engaged," Hayes ordered. The Resolute once again vanished from the alien sensors, slipping silently into the darkness of space. The crew could feel the familiar hum of the cloaking device as it surrounded them. For now, they were invisible. Outside, the alien ships moved cautiously, aware that the Resolute was somewhere, but not sure where. Their sensors scanned the empty space, looking for the faintest hint of movement. But the Resolute was too quick, too elusive. The humans weren't trying to win by brute force. They were fighting with strategy. The first strike came silently. The Resolute darted out from its hiding place, unleashing a barrage of missiles aimed at an unprotected alien cruiser. The explosions were bright and violent, but within moments, the ship disappeared again into the void, leaving only confusion and chaos in its wake. "Target hit," one of the crew members reported. "We've disabled their engines." The aliens scrambled to react, firing blindly into space, hoping to catch the Resolute off guard. But the human ship had already vanished. It was impossible to track. The crew aboard the Resolute worked quickly, reloading and recalibrating, readying for their next strike. The alien fleet was in disarray. They couldn't figure out where the Resolute was or how to stop it. Every time they thought they had found it, it was gone, slipping into the darkness like a ghost. They had weapons that could vaporize entire cities, fleets that could obliterate planets, but they couldn't land a single hit on the Resolute. And that frustrated them. That angered them. Captain Hayes smiled grimly. "Keep them guessing. Hit them, then disappear, over and over again." The Resolute darted from one position to another, striking with precision, and then vanishing before the aliens could retaliate. Every time they hit, they made sure to disable vital systems, shields, weapons, engines. Nothing was left untouched. The aliens' fleet was slowly falling apart, piece by piece, as they struggled to find their unseen enemy. But it wasn't just the alien ships that were feeling the pressure. The Resolute's crew was working at full capacity. The ship wasn't built for constant movement at this scale. The cloaking device drained energy rapidly, and the systems had to be recalibrated with every strike. There was no time to rest, no time to regroup. Every time they fired, every time they disappeared, the crew risked the ship being exposed. They couldn't afford to make a mistake. As the battle wore on, the tension on the Resolute's bridge grew. The aliens were getting smarter. They were starting to send smaller ships in search of the Resolute, hoping to flush it out of hiding. But Hayes was ready. She knew they would try this. "Prepare to launch decoys," Hayes ordered. The crew immediately set to work, deploying small, unmanned ships designed to mimic the Resolute's signals. These decoys would send out fake readings, making the aliens believe they had located the human ship. And while the aliens chased after those false signals, the Resolute would strike again. The decoys were released, and the aliens took the bait. They launched a full-scale attack on one of the decoy signals, firing all their weapons in the direction of the false readings. But the Resolute was already gone, hidden once again, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "We're making a dent," said Lieutenant Morales, the tactical officer. His voice was tense, but there was excitement in it too. The alien ship's shields were failing under the constant barrage. For the first time in hours, the Resolute's crew could see that the tide was beginning to shift in their favor. But the alien fleet wasn't going to go down so easily. The flagship's shields flickered and then suddenly flared back to full strength. The alien ships that had been caught in the Resolute's attacks began to regroup, and new reinforcements were on the way. It wasn't enough. The humans had struck, but they hadn't crippled the fleet. The battle was far from over. "We've got to keep pushing," Captain Hayes said, her voice firm and unwavering. She knew they couldn't give the aliens time to recover. "All hands, prepare for evasive maneuvers. We need to stay ahead of them." The Resolute shot forward again, dodging alien blasts, the crew working together like a well-oiled machine. The ship's weapons fired with precision, targeting the alien ships one by one. But the alien forces were powerful. They were relentless, and they were starting to adapt. Suddenly, a warning light flashed across the bridge. "Captain, we've got a new threat," reported Sergeant Bonner, the head of security. "It's an incoming ship, a stealth ship. It's going to hit us from behind." The Resolute was too far into the battle to avoid this new attack. The alien reinforcements had arrived, and they had brought a stealth ship of their own, one that was equipped with a cloaking device similar to the Resolute's. "Not on my watch," Hayes muttered, more to herself than anyone else. She turned to her crew. "Activate countermeasures. Full energy to shields. We're not giving them an inch." The Resolute's energy shields flared to life, but the alien stealth ship was already in range. It fired, and the impact rocked the Resolute, throwing the crew off balance. "Status report," Hayes demanded, her voice sharp. "We've lost some power to the rear engines. The shields are holding, but we've taken some damage," Lieutenant Morales said, working quickly at his console. "We can't take another hit like that." The battle had become a high-stakes game of survival. The Resolute was fighting against overwhelming odds, and it was only a matter of time before the aliens figured out how to defeat the human ship. The crew was exhausted, but they refused to give up. They had come too far, sacrificed too much, to lose now. "We need to hit them fast," Captain Hayes said. "Full power to the front cannons. Let's break their momentum." With everything they had left, the Resolute launched a final devastating strike at the alien fleet. The weapons fired in unison, the blast shaking the very fabric of space. This time, the aliens were caught off guard. Their shields faltered. Their ships began to fall, one after another. And then, for the first time in the battle, the aliens began to retreat. The tide had turned. The Resolute had delivered a crushing blow, and the alien fleet was forced to pull back. The battle was far from over, but the humans had proven something undeniable. They could fight, and they could win. Against all odds, they had shown the galaxy that no matter how small, how outgunned, humanity would never give up. For Captain Hayes and her crew, the battle was not just about survival. It was about sending a message to the rest of the galaxy. They might have been seen as weak, but the Resolute had just proven that humanity was anything but. The battle was over. The silence that followed was deafening. The Resolute hung in the vast emptiness of space, its engines humming low as the crew surveyed the wreckage of the alien fleet. What had once been an overwhelming force was now a shattered remnant, scattered across the void like broken pieces of a puzzle. The alien ships, once powerful and terrifying, now drifted, disabled or destroyed, leaving behind only the aftermath of humanity's unexpected victory. "We've made our mark," Hayes said, speaking to her crew as the ship neared Earth. "But this is just the beginning. We've sent a message to the galaxy. But now we have to prepare for what's to come. We've shown them that we're willing to fight. Now, we need to show them that we can win." The crew stood together, united in their resolve. The battle against the aliens was far from over, but they had already proven that humans were not just survivors. They were warriors, and they would do whatever it took to protect their home, their families, and their future. The legacy of the Resolute would live on, not just in the annals of history, but in the hearts of those who had fought to protect humanity's place in the galaxy. The aliens had learned that humanity was not a race to be dismissed or underestimated, and that lesson would shape the future of the universe for years to come. The Resolute had fought with everything it had, and in doing so, it had left an indelible mark on the galaxy. The tides of war had shifted, but for humanity, this was only the beginning of a long, hard fight for survival, and they were ready. The counterattack continued, and with each passing minute, more alien ships fell to humanity's hybrid weapons and innovative tactics. The tables had turned completely, and now it was the mighty alien fleet that found itself outmatched and overwhelmed. Captain Minji studied the holographic display of the alien fleet's command structure, watching as their once perfect formation began to break apart. From her position in the Psychological Warfare Division's command center, she could see the chaos spreading through enemy ranks as Earth's forces systematically destroyed their communication nodes. "Look at how they're responding," Minji pointed out to her team, indicating the erratic movements of alien ships that had lost contact with their command vessels. "They're completely lost without direct orders from above." The Psychological Warfare team had spent months analyzing intercepted alien communications, building a detailed picture of the Stellar Empire's rigid hierarchy. What they discovered had shocked them. Despite their advanced technology, the aliens were prisoners of their own inflexible command structure. "Another command ship isolated," reported Lieutenant Park, tracking the ongoing attacks. "Their subordinate vessels are starting to fire at random targets. They don't know what to do without explicit instructions." Minji nodded, watching as the carefully coordinated plan unfolded. Earth's forces weren't just attacking the alien fleet. They were systematically dismantling their entire command structure. Each destroyed communication node created more confusion in the enemy ranks. Intercepted transmission from Admiral Roth called out one of the communication officers. "He's trying to reorganize his fleet, but half his ships can't receive his orders anymore." The alien admiral's voice crackled through their speakers, filled with growing panic. "All ships, maintain formation. Follow Standard Protocol 7 Beta. Why aren't you responding? This is a direct order." But the alien ships, cut off from their chain of command, could only follow their basic programming. Some continued their last received orders, others fell back to defensive positions, and some simply hung motionless in space, waiting for instructions that would never come. "Their fatal flaw was right there in front of us," Minji explained to her team. "They're so dependent on their hierarchy that they never developed any capacity for independent action. Their troops can't adapt or make decisions without explicit orders." Earth's forces pressed their advantage, targeting the remaining command ships with precision strikes. Each lost commander added to the confusion spreading through the alien ranks. Ships that could have easily escaped found themselves paralyzed by indecision, waiting for orders that their protocols demanded. "New development," Lieutenant Park announced. "Some of the alien ships are starting to fire on each other. They can't properly identify friend from foe without central coordination." Minji moved to another display, watching as the alien fleet descended further into chaos. The Stellar Empire's mighty armada, which had conquered countless worlds, was being defeated not just by Earth's weapons, but by its own rigid structure. "Send word to all our attack squadrons," she ordered. "Focus on any ship showing signs of independent action. Those are the most dangerous ones now." The battle continued to unfold across the screens, but it was no longer the organized conflict it had started as. Earth's forces, free to make tactical decisions on their own, adapted quickly to each new situation. The aliens, bound by protocol and unable to receive new orders, could only watch as their advantage slipped away. "Admiral Roth is getting desperate," reported the communications officer. He's trying to implement emergency protocols, but his ships aren't responding correctly. The chaos is spreading faster than he can control it. Minji allowed herself a small smile. The aliens' greatest strength, their perfect coordination and discipline, had become their greatest weakness. By destroying their ability to communicate, Earth's forces had turned the enemy's own rigid structure against them. "Look at this," Lieutenant Park called out, highlighting a section of the battle. "Some alien ships are trying to surrender, but their protocols don't even include proper surrender procedures. They don't know how to stop fighting." The psychological warfare team continued monitoring the situation, providing real-time analysis to Earth's combat forces. They had discovered that the aliens' technological superiority had led to an overdependence on automated systems and strict protocols. Without their command structure, all that advanced technology was becoming useless. "New transmission from Admiral Roth," announced the communications officer. "He's ordering a full retreat, but only about 20% of his remaining ships are receiving the signal." Minji watched as the alien fleet's formation completely collapsed. Ships that had moved in perfect synchronization now drifted in confusion or flowed in random directions. The mighty Stellar Empire, which had expected an easy conquest, was being undone by its own inflexibility. "Send our final analysis to High Command," she ordered. "The alien fleet is no longer capable of coordinated action. Victory is within our grasp." As Earth's forces moved in for the final phase of the battle, Minji reflected on the irony of the situation. The aliens had come to conquer what they thought was a primitive world, never realizing that their technological superiority had bred the very weaknesses that would lead to their defeat. Admiral Roth's voice came through one last time, filled with disbelief. "How? How could these primitives understand our weakness when we didn't even see it ourselves?" But Minji and her team knew the answer. Sometimes the greatest strength could become the greatest weakness, and the ability to adapt and think independently was worth more than all the advanced technology in the galaxy. Colonel Bai Junho stood at the helm of the assault carrier, watching as Admiral Roth's massive flagship loomed before them. The once proud vessel of the Stellar Empire now hung isolated in space, its support ships either destroyed or scattered in chaos. This was humanity's moment to deliver the final blow. "All teams in position," reported Lieutenant Kim through the quantum comm. "Dr. Park's interference systems are active. They can't escape even if they try." Junho checked his tactical display one last time. His assault team had trained for years for this moment, combining human combat techniques with captured alien technology. They were ready to prove that Earth's defenders could match and exceed the Empire's best troops. "Begin the approach," he ordered. "Activate hybrid shields and prepare for boarding action." The assault carrier moved silently through space, its systems cloaked by Dr. Park Mayray's quantum interference technology. On the flagship's bridge, Admiral Roth and his crew remained unaware of the approaching threat until it was too late. "Breach point secured," called out Sergeant Lee as the boarding team cut through the flagship's outer hull. "Their internal defenses are confused by our hybrid technology. They can't get a lock on us." Junho led his team through the alien vessel's corridors, encountering sporadic resistance. The enemy troops, cut off from their command structure, fought without coordination or strategy. Their advanced weapons and armor proved ineffective against Earth's hybrid technology and adaptive tactics. Meanwhile, in Earth's unified command center, Admiral Han Dae-sung watched the assault unfold. Dr. Park stood beside him, monitoring the quantum interference field that kept the flagship trapped in place. "Their engine core is trying to power it up," she reported, "but our quantum disruption is preventing them from achieving escape velocity. They're not going anywhere." The battle inside the flagship intensified as Junho's team approached the bridge. Enemy soldiers fell back in disarray, their rigid training useless against humanity's unconventional warfare techniques. "Bridge secured," Junho announced finally. "Admiral Roth is in custody. The flagship is ours." Hours later, Admiral Roth stood in Earth's command center, his proud bearing diminished by defeat. Around him, the leaders of Earth's defense forces gathered to witness this historic moment. Admiral Han Dae-sung stepped forward, his voice clear and firm. "Admiral Roth, you came to our world believing us to be primitive and weak. You thought your technological superiority guaranteed victory. Today, you learned otherwise." The alien admiral's face showed a mix of confusion and reluctant respect. "How?" he asked. "How did you hide such capabilities from our scans?" "We didn't hide our capabilities," Dr. Park explained. "We showed you exactly what you expected to see. A primitive world. Your own arrogance did the rest." Jun-ho, still in his combat armor, stood guard as Dae-sung delivered Earth's terms. "The Stellar Empire will immediately withdraw all forces from Earth's solar system. You will acknowledge Earth's full sovereignty and our right to defend ourselves by any means necessary." "And if we refuse?" Roth asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "Then we will demonstrate that today's defeat was only a small example of humanity's true potential," Dae-sung replied calmly. "We may not have your empire's resources, but we have something far more valuable: the ability to adapt, to think creatively, and to unite against common threats." The terms were accepted. Within days, the remaining ships of the Stellar Empire's once mighty invasion fleet limped away from Earth's solar system. They left behind not just defeated troops and damaged vessels, but also a changed perception of humanity's place in the galaxy. In the weeks that followed, Earth's hidden capabilities became public knowledge. Underground bases emerged into the sunlight, hybrid technologies were revealed, and humanity began preparing for its new role among the stars. "We've taught them a valuable lesson," Dae-sung remarked to Jun-ho and Dr. Park as they watched the last alien ships disappear into deep space. "Technology alone doesn't determine superiority. It's how you use it that matters." "What happens now?" Jun-ho asked, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed so distant or mysterious. "Now," Dae-sung replied with a slight smile, "we prepare for our next challenge. The galaxy knows we exist, and we've proven we can defend ourselves. It's time for humanity to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors like the Stellar Empire, but as equals ready to face whatever challenges await us." As Earth's defenders began the work of rebuilding and advancing their civilization, the story of their victory spread across the galaxy. The tale of how a supposedly primitive world had defeated one of the mightiest fleets in known space became a legend, and a warning to any who might underestimate humanity's potential. The stars beckoned, and humanity was ready to answer their call, forever changed by the knowledge that they could stand against any threat, not through superior technology alone, but through the uniquely human qualities of adaptability, creativity, and unity.